This is Matt Spurk, the team captain of Kraken BattleBot, and you're listening to the RoboCast.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam Elliott64 and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself, Steve the AmericanKilljoy and DavidofSmeg because Jevon is busy finishing his beetle for next week. Welcome back, David. As it turns out, I was right in the middle of the week saying that you'd be back for this
I
week.
know. I just keep appearing, it's just. I think I just fell asleep after the late night session.
It was quite the experience. And joining us, as you would have heard from our intro, is the ever lovely Matt Spurk from Kraken. Welcome back, my friend. It's been far too long since we've had you on. I think the last time we spoke to you was for the huge fight back in 2020.
Oh yeah, that was such a good fight.
Exactly. I mean, could not write for a match like that. First of all, how have you been? It's been a rough season and a bit so far for you, hasn't it?
Yeah. Maybe I needed to be back on RoboCast, try and turn my luck around here a little bit. Yeah, it was tough, because we retired the last version of Kraken and have obviously growing pains with the new version of Kraken. But really excited about this new robot and what we've done. And we built OG Kraken, the old Crusher version for the BattleBots Destructathon show, which is airing now in Vegas. So we have been like 100 mile an hour on building robots for a year now. I'm sure everyone else in my family is ready for a break, but I'm really enjoying it. So,
so really, in retiring old Kraken, you basically gave it a new home, and it gets to just live in Vegas.
Yeah,
for eternity.
That wasn't the plan going into it, but they asked us to build it for that show. It was so it's such a fitting perfect place for it. It's the perfect robot for there, and it's doing really well. So I'm really happy with how the show looks and how the show is kind of growing and evolving. I've seen videos and stuff that they've shared with us. So it's really cool. I'm really excited about it.
Need more Nightmare destroying a slot machine.
Absolutely. We have got some listener questions which we'll get to a little bit later on, and one of them is all about the Crusher Kraken. So we will get to that a bit later on. But
sure,
I do want to briefly recap on your first fight of the season with Beta.
Yes.
Now, it was weird because the fight was kind of
a strange fight.
It was
an odd one, wasn't it?
Yes. It was terrible for 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden it just all came together at the end. Yeah. It was actually quite good.
The bots had trouble finding each other. It just beat it, having all kinds of drive mobility problems, and then Kraken just sliding around. And I don't know if you can give us more information on exactly what was going on in that fight.
Yeah. And I touched on this a little bit in some of the messages in the BattleBots group and stuff like that, but there was a new version of the VEST software, version 5.3, and that version had a known bug in it, and or an unknown bug in it, I'll say. So like half the team showed up and we're trying to use this new version of the software, and we're kind of figuring it out during the first couple of days that there's clearly something wrong with the robots. So both Beta and I were using that new version of the firmware, and it was so weird because like you could have the robot with the wheels up on the cart and try the drive, and all four wheels would be fine, and then you would put it on the ground where like the drive now had some load on it, and one wheel would not work, and then it would start working, and then another wheel would stop working, and then like it was totally random. So you were constantly trying to like just go robot.
Yeah.
Did you require a Rory Mangles rescue? Is the real question.
So yes, we had Rory was there helping us, but really what ended up happening, because we still had the same issue for our Lucky fight. But Brian from the Tantrum team actually sat down at our pit for like 3 hours the day after that match and just like helped us. We switched to the version 5.2, the old version of the best software, and it was like a night and day difference because that version of Kraken should do about 20 miles an hour. It's one of the fastest robots in the field, and we can't get out of our own starting square. So it's really frustrating to just not be able to move when we've got a robot with 22 horsepower drive and it just cannot go. It's constantly fighting one, two, or three wheels with one of the drives. So it's really like I know what Kraken can do, and I know like what it's capable of, and we just can't quite get there. It just won't happen.
I will say no real spoilers, but like some bots that have trouble in their first couple of fights, every Kraken fight does improve. From the ones I remember seeing. It's been a while since filming happened, but I do remember each fight. It seems to like the bugs seem to get worked out, and there's steps being made. So
yeah,
yes, and I feel like this was one like we went into this season knowing this was going to be a tough year. Like we're going to switch to brushless. We're going to put a weapon on there. It's going to be an articulated arm. Hammer saw style weapons are not traditionally they're more complicated because there's 7 motors in Kraken, right? So there's 7 opportunities for something to not work. Plus, right? There's
right.
way more than 7, but there's 7 big issues that you could have. And so that there's a lot of stuff in there that just all has to work at once. And so when you're working with like a brand new robot like Kraken is, and you're trying to on a very short build schedule, and we didn't really have a lot of time for testing, so there's a lot of things that we went into the season like we're just going to learn. We're going to learn how to make a great robot. We're going to just try and improve the whole time we're there. And at the end of the season, we're going to have a list of things we're going to fix for next year, and we're going to come back and smoke everybody. So that's where we're at. We went into this season. We're probably not going to win the Giant Nut this season, but we're definitely going to win it next season.
The Kraken Revenge Tour.
We have it on record now.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone else may as well just not bother turning up. It's all over.
End game, stay home.
They're still stuck. They couldn't get them out.
We will get to that, I'm sure, at some point again in the future. But as I said, we have got a number of listener questions specifically about Kraken and yourself, Matt. So starting with a guy called Aiden Muted on Discord, he asks, where did the sea monster theme originate from?
So funny enough, the whole like theme of Kraken and the name of Kraken actually existed before the robot did. So we talked to Mike and Andrea from Witch Doctor and Will Bales from Hypershock, and it was kind of like we the first time we applied to get on the show, we got rejected. We had a robot, I think it was called like Ogre or something like that, and it was going to swing a big club, and it got rejected, which actually worked out in the long run. It worked out for the better, but we asked them, I was like, when we applied for the second opportunity for Discovery, when it came back to Discovery, it was like, what do we got to do to get on the show? And they're like, have a theme, lean into the theme, kind of have something that kind of unifies the bot with the team together. And so we kind of said, well, no one's really doing pirates, so we'll do like a pirate theme. And then we came up with the name Kraken because I was like, release the Kraken. That's pretty cool. And we had no idea what the robot was even going to look like. No clue what Kraken was going to be. But we was like, all right, we're going to be pirates and the name's going to be Kraken. And then from there it was, we came up with dozens of concepts of what Kraken could look like. It was a horizontal spinner. It was a diagonal spinner. It was a vert spinner. And then ultimately settled on, let's make it look like a biter, a grabber, and came up with the crusher concept and really liked that. I liked the way it looked and thought it was really cool, and the producers did too. So that was how we got on the show. So we started with how do we get on the show, and then backed out of it from there.
Run it back a little bit. Excellent. Steve, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, I will. Nathan Pops on YouTube says, "Where'd you get your hat?"
The hat is from Amazon. Yeah, where you get everything.
Where everything comes from.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, we got it from Amazon, and then it's all black. And my wife actually used like a gold paint marker and colors in the octopus tentacles on the side.
No way.
So that's where the hat came from.
Well, it looks great on screen, and I think obviously with questions like that, people want one. So
yeah, there you go. That's Amazon. They're like
looking on Amazon. Find it there.
David, do you want to have the next one?
Yeah, I'll take the next one. So Lloyd on YouTube asks, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from this version of Kraken, and what modifications are you working on for the next season that you can tell us, at least at the moment?
Yeah, we're like way deep into the prototyping and testing phase already. So we learned a ton about the VESC software and brushless motors this time, which was really our goal going in. Like we were behind the technology curve and we needed to catch up. And there's no way to really learn it without other than just doing it, right, and kind of experiencing it. and like I said, having Brian help you with it for 2 hours, that's a pretty great way to learn. But we went into that season knowing, or this season now coming up, knowing that we need to spend more time tuning our software and getting things set up. So we're actually, we've got parts that are coming in today and tomorrow. We've got brand new tires coming from Brazil. They'll be here tomorrow. So we're going to completely build a whole test chassis so we can kind of play with the CG and tuning the vests and just getting everything set up the way we want it. So that's going to be, I think, our big change for next season is we've got a lot more time to, now that we've got all the parts, we can kind of test them and tune them and figure out what works best for this version of Kraken.
Kraken with brushless and Brazil wheels.
Yeah, man.
That's going to be
wild to think about, isn't it, really? This is why
Yes.
you're going to win. This is why you're going to win.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Feel very, very confident. Feel very confident.
Ivan Roy on Facebook asks, what led you to bringing Kraken back out of supposed retirement after last season?
So we had a long conversation with our whole team after last season, and it was kind of like, we got to do something different. Like, we knew the bot that we were bringing wasn't going to win anymore. We weren't going to beat just about anybody, right? And we didn't, right? We the only fight that we'd won was against kind of that huge upset against Witch Doctor back in 2020, and then that was the only fight we won that season. We lost every fight the season after that, and it was like it was
very bit thin sort of thing.
Yeah, it's you gotta win. It's tough to go into a fight and lose every time and know that you're going to lose, right? And the way the scoring was set up and the way the field was evolving, and the field was constantly getting better, and it felt like we were kind of stagnant. So it was kind of like, we got to do something different. And the plan at the end of last season was to retire Kraken and build a completely different robot, come up with a new theme and a new idea, and just start over, just blank slate. And we kind of thought about it. It was like, fans really love Kraken. We had a lot of fans kind of reach out to us. They were heartbroken. We had kids sending us videos, and their parents were like, my kid's been crying for 3 days because you're going to retire Kraken. It's like, okay, all right. So it was very, it was very encouraging that people liked what we were doing, even though we weren't winning. We were a bot that people liked and wanted more of, right? So we decided that it would be a shame to give up on Kraken entirely, right? Let's take the bot, let's evolve it. We've always compared Kraken to like Pokemon, right? It's going through an evolution, right? And what is it going to evolve into now? And so then it was, all right, let's think up a dozen different concepts of what Kraken could turn into. And we kind of settled on this one, this hammer saw, articulated saw that's got this 4-wheel drive vert capability to it, or it could be the biter grabber, and it's got just very versatile attack, and able to score some of those crucial damage points that the previous version of Kraken couldn't get. So that's kind of decided to evolve it rather than just give up on it.
Kind of right off the coattails of this question and your answer there, Matt, I find you very similar to what Al Kindle did with Blacksmith, where he came back and it just wasn't getting the decisions and just wasn't getting the wins that maybe he would have expected with that design, and came back with a hammer saw,
something more aggressive,
that you're not basically giving an entire dredging category away to the other team that has a much more that could have a much more damaging weapon. And it's interesting to see how you can see the evolution with Kraken, where I don't imagine this was really tough to pitch to production to say, hey, it's Kraken but evolved, where it's not just so much of a departure from the old design, because I know the show wants to build brands. They want it to be, they want it to show that this bot actually came from its previous design and it's not a complete departure. Because I can still kind of see the shape with the wedge and stuff like that, and I can see old Kraken in this design. So I imagine it wasn't too hard for production to say, hey, that's the way to go forward. And I imagine since they brought you back, they were pretty happy with what you guys came up with.
Yeah. And I think you kind of touched on it exactly. Like, Al was obviously a huge inspiration with deciding to evolve Kraken, because he evolved Blacksmith, right? He turned that robot from a bot that couldn't win judges' decisions, but was very cool and iconic, into something that could win judges' decisions and could deliver some impact. So it felt like with Al kind of making that change with a bot like Blacksmith, that it kind of opened the door for other teams to kind of evolve their bot and their brand, right, into something that's still very similar. It's still very Blacksmith. Blacksmith is still very Blacksmith. You could tell that's Blacksmith, right? It shoots fire out, but now it's got that ability to deliver some damage potential. So, yeah, that definitely what Al did was definitely kind of an inspiration behind bringing Kraken back. Absolutely.
Steve, if you want to take the next one.
Yes, I will. So, Robot Combat 144 on Discord. So what was the process of turning Crusher Kraken into a show bot? Did BattleBots approach you? Did you offer? And have you met the actors that drive the bots? So
BattleBots reached out to us. This was one of the few times where being the only Crusher in the field paid dividends, because they wanted a Crusher for the show, and we were the only ones for the past 2 years. So obviously Quantum couldn't come due to COVID restrictions, and so they asked us to do it. And obviously a huge honor to be any part of that, just to even be in that conversation and to be considered, and then obviously selected was huge. So just was very humbled by that whole thing. That again, it's like people like what I'm doing, so that was cool.
I think they like what you're doing, Matt.
Yeah,
something makes me think they like what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's weird seeing there's Kraken on a billboard out there for Destructathon in Vegas.
Yeah,
it's like it's that was something that our team built.
It's that feeling of kind of you've made it, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is. I mean, it really is, and it I didn't expect any of that or any of this, right? Anything where we're at whenever we start out. It was just, I love BattleBots. I want to be on the show, and I want to build a robot for the show. And to have this thing where we're on the Destructathon and on a billboard and on a book cover, it's just crazy. It's just such a weird feeling, a weird place to be in. Absolutely.
But a nice one nonetheless, right?
Yeah. Oh, and the other part of the question, have I met the actors? I have met the actors. They're very cool. They're very fun. Ton of energy. I really like them. So if you get a chance, you're in Vegas and you get a chance to see the Destructathon show, definitely check it out. It's very cool. And all the fights are real. They're real fights. Both drivers, it's not staged. They are both trying to beat the other driver, right? There's bragging rights on the line for them as well, right? So
absolutely.
They are absolutely trying to destroy each other, which is great. I'm all about it.
Best example I saw of that was the clip that the Whiplash team put up of just breaking one of the lights as if it was just a normal recording session. That's a clear example of everything is fine here. It's just a normal fight.
Yes, absolutely. There is a bunch of the lights got broken. I think they've broken the lights a couple times already, and the show's only been in for 2 weeks now, 3 weeks. So that it is a real show. There are parts that get ripped off, there are robots that get destroyed, and there's a very dedicated team that is working very hard in the pits every night to try and rebuild all of these robots that just get completely mangled every night. And it's awesome. It's a super cool show.
I imagine the actors keeping records and being like,
100%.
oh no.
Exactly. There's
Who's
a tally
the winningest
somewhere in the background.
Yeah,
exactly. For sure.
David, do you want to take the last one before we crack on with some fights?
Yeah, I'll take the last one. So Chrysastrus, I think that's how you pronounce it on YouTube, asks, what are the differences between the last Crusher version of Kraken and the Destructathon version?
Oh, what are so the biggest change between the last version of Kraken and the Destructathon version is it actually has brushless drive in the new version of the Destructathon. And we've bumped the weight up to 300 pounds for the new one. There was no weight limit, right? So you could do whatever you want. And so the front jaw that would always get torn up by the horizontal spinners, that's now 1/2 inch thick AR 500. So good luck getting through that, guys. Yeah. And then the back of the throat is 1/2 inch AR 500. And the whole back panel is a 1/2 inch AR 500. So it's all 1/2 inch. All the big areas that would normally get hit and potentially bent is not going to get hit or bent anymore.
It's even harder to kill, essentially.
It is even harder.
It was already hard to kill.
Yes. And the new brushless. So we're using the same brushless motors that we're using in the current version of Kraken. Obviously, we've got the Vesk tuning figured out. So that bumps our horsepower up on the drive. It used to have about 2.5 horsepower on the old version to now it has 11. So it has significantly more oomph in the drive than it used to. It's faster, more pushing power, and just overall, it's just got a lot of bite to it. And then, the last thing, I almost forgot. Jim from Free Shipping helped hook us up with a fire effect. So the flamethrower that we've got on this version of Kraken is the same setup that Free Shipping uses.
Nice.
So it's a huge fireball that comes out of the mouth.
I've seen clips. It's very impressive.
It's like the entire head is engulfed in a giant fireball. So it is huge.
It's like last year's Kraken went to the gym or something.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. We will have more questions later on. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of fights to get through and a lot of action to discuss. Starting with Bloodsport versus Gigabyte. Now,
what a cagey fight.
Interesting setup on Bloodsport. They went for the kind of the snoot. I like it though.
That doesn't touch the ground though. That was a bit weird.
Didn't really need to though. Like
the kilobyte, as they called it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went into this fight. I thought for sure Gigabyte was going to win, right? I was like, this is Gigabyte's fight to lose, just because their Bloodsport can only hit Gigabyte where they want to be hit, right? Mm-hmm. Gigabyte wants to hit people with their shell, and that's the only place Bloodsport can hit them back. And I thought this is going to be Gigabyte all day, and so Bloodsport taking that one was shocker.
Yeah, they definitely have the geometry advantage, very similar to like the upset of Tombstone with Captain Shredderator. Very similar, where like over time, they're gonna hit. Captain was gonna get hit where they were gonna get hit, and it was just a matter of time until they burn up. But that didn't happen this time. But Bloodsport didn't spin their weapon up.
Well, I get
tactical.
Yeah, I get the way they were trying to do it. I think what they were kind of banking on was Gigabyte would just hit that kind of the snoot, if you like, at the front, the kilobyte wedge, and then just destabilize itself, and then they come in when they're upside down or something like that, and then they try and cause the damage. Mm-hmm. I think there was actually a point in this fight as well where Bloodsport is absolutely stuck on its side, and Gigabyte hits them again and knocks them down, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder if they'll come back to regret that. And sure enough, and that massive hit, like where they just both straight into...
we were getting flashbacks from like Bloodsport's previous fight when watching this in the stands.
We're like, not again.
Like, here we go again. Oh, it's not on fire this time. Okay, this is a good start.
It's the same corner.
Yeah.
But lucky to get out of there.
The corner where everyone goes to die, it seems.
Yes. Gigabyte did go there. And basically, did go there to die.
It's a shame. It is a shame because this was much better from Gigabyte, and the driving seemed a lot more, impressive than the first fight where they just really struggled to get going. But just small, I think maybe one wheel of drive went, or a side of drive went, and obviously you can't really tell with Gigabyte because everything's underneath the big shell. It's so hard to identify what happened, but I'm equally as surprised as you. I thought this is just like, on paper, this is just not a Bloodsport fight, is it? And
no.
Sure, they came away with the win, which I'm sure they'll be very happy about after all that hard work trying to repair their electronic setup, which got
having to get new bits built short notice as well.
Yep. Just completely rebuild that head. Instead of being 3D printed, now it's all aluminum. You can actually see it sticking out the back there. They had to make some modifications in order to make that actually fit and work. And thankfully, all that work was not for naught. It definitely had a great effect on this fight, and they came out with the win. Gigabyte.
Where do they go from here, really? Because they've obviously lost 2 now.
It doesn't get any easier, does it?
I was going to say, I believe their next fight. Well, we'll get onto that in a little minute, but I think they've got a pretty tough next fight, if memory serves, or is it?
I think it's the following fight. Their fourth one.
Yeah.
Their next fight might be. We'll see. It's going to be a strange fight for them, honestly. But yeah, I don't know what you do if you're Gigabyte. I mean, they take that huge hit, and this is a bot that I mean, not even 2 years ago was known for taking huge hits and just going and
That
going
fight
and
with
going.
Hydra, like
Yeah,
that 3-minute
exactly.
fight where it just kept bouncing off every single wall possible and just
Mhm.
kept going. It's a shame to kind of see it like
even
I
his
don't know.
fight with Hypershock,
Yeah.
the most one of the most highlighted fights, honestly, of the past few seasons.
Mhm.
And it just doesn't. I don't know if it's just fatigue or just something in there that maybe wasn't checked that should have been, or it's just a massive hit by Bloodsport and just a happenstance where it just so happened that that much impact just caused something to break that maybe in other fights doesn't. But I don't know.
Yeah.
This was one of my picks to win the nut a couple of years ago, and now I'm just it's very tough to see a way forward.
And it's tough because like a lot of people are like, well, what's wrong with Gigabyte? And I don't know that there's anything wrong with Gigabyte. It's just the entire field is leaps and bounds better. Anybody in this field, anybody at all, would have
Mhm.
trounced the bots in the first season of Discovery Channel,
Oh,
or back in the
even
ABC days, would have
earlier,
just
yeah.
ripped through the entire field.
The
It wouldn't even
pace,
been close.
if you go back to watch 2015, 2016, the
Mm.
pace is so much different. It's
Yeah.
it's like you're watching the fights in slow motion
It's like
sometimes.
the first 3 seasons now on Netflix, I think worldwide now, so there's no reason to not go and watch them. But like you're absolutely right. Like the way that they move around, like, only the very top machines at
Mhm.
the time, kind of you can kind of see. Okay, I can see where that they're about the same, maybe not the same level, but like, I can see where it's going. But like the majority of the field, it was a struggle, and the even like the very I don't want to say lower tier robots of today, but like the robots that are struggling this season
Mhm.
you're absolutely right, would just be
Yeah,
miles
they'd
better
be in
than
the
everyone else.
bracket. They'd be
Yeah.
making a deep run at it.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
crazy. It is
Yeah,
absolutely
absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah, Kraken does 12 mile an hour. Old version of Kraken would do 12 mile an hour. And that
Mhm.
was middle speed wise. And that's not even like you're a snail out there now. And
Yeah.
you're just a slow moving target while the other robot zips around and rips all your wheels off. So like all these bots are evolving so fast and becoming so powerful. It's like there's just the things that worked for years are not working anymore. And that was why we changed Kraken. You have to evolve or you are going to die.
Mhm.
hmm
Yep.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, let's come to
Yes.
our next fight. So Gigabyte next. I think it doesn't have the tough fight next. I think this is their quote unquote easier fight, isn't it?
Yeah, this is their. I mean, it's an unknown, going in. Their next fight's up against Starchild. Starchild having a little bit of a rough start. Maybe they'll turn it around in this fight and maybe able to get some hits on the top of Gigabyte shell. But I'm curious to see if this goes similar to when Gigabyte fought Huge. I think Gigabyte fought Huge quite
And
some time
Yes.
ago.
Huge won that
Yeah,
fight. Didn't
so
it? So
I'd be curious to see if there's something similar there. And then Bloodsport has a meeting with Rotator. So we'll salivate over that one because I have
There's
I have a
bragging
sneak-
rights for that fight, isn't there?
I have a sneaky suspicion we might see Gold Carbide.
yes,
Sam, 'cause
that's
he's
all I
gotta
want to
protect
see.
those wheels.
It's all I want to
Uh,
see.
I mean, that's gonna be a tough fight. Rotator, after getting their win, after changing all their speed controllers, I'm not speed controllers, all the receivers, and
deadly, didn't it, against
transmitter and
Jackpot?
everything, it looked real good. So that's gonna be a really solid fight. I wouldn't know who to pick out of that one, honestly.
yeah.
It's a win for the fans, definitely.
For sure,
Either way.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
Fight number 2 sees Claw Viper versus Overhaul.
We were talking about speed and how some bots are in slow motion. This bot makes every other bot look like they're in slow motion.
Can I just say, hands up who thought Claw Viper would be the first 3-0 robot this season? if you put your hand up at home, you're a liar.
Yeah,
You're a
no
liar.
way.
Nobody other than Kevin.
He must have been the only one. Ironically, this is probably his toughest fight of the season. Like,
Easily.
I'm amazed how good of a fight Overhaul gave it, considering what we've seen historically from both these two robots this year. Obviously, Overhaul got a win against Starchild, fair enough. But like in previous seasons, it's kind of struggled. To be fair to Charles as well.
Yeah.
And Claw Viper this season has been on an absolute tear, and faced with another grabber, it's really just it shows that a lot of robots are built for specific opponents. Like we'll get to a bit later on, a lot more specifically with Starchild. But in this fight, Claw Viper struggled because it hasn't got the ability just like to use their opponent's weapon against them because they've got to be,
they're fighting themselves.
Exactly.
This is, it's amazing to even think about the fact that Claw Viper would have a harder time against a bot similar to it than a bot with a meaty spinner on it. It's like fighting in a mirror.
This was the fight for Grabberbot Nation's
supremacy. Yeah.
I really like this one. I've got a big spinner on my robot, but I love the control bots. I love Quantum. I love Claw Viper and Overhaul. I love what they're doing. They're different and they're not giving up on it. Right? They're going in and I'm a control bot. I'm going to control you better than anyone else. I'm not going to score any damage points. But you know what? That's okay because I am going to own every other point that is available to get. Great fight. But hats off to both competitors. Super close. It was fun. That was a fun one. I really like that one.
Definitely. I mean, it's another one of those examples this season that we've seen BattleBots finally, after 7 seasons, start to put no kinetic energy weapons in there and actually having great fights as a result. Like, normally they kind of just lump either 2 spinners or a spinner and a control bot. They don't tend to give 2 control bots a chance at each other, or like a control bot and a hammer or whatever. They tend to have at least one kinetic spinner in there.
Mm-hmm.
And this year they've kind of gone a bit crazy and they've started just saying, hey, have at it, guys, have fun. And this was a great fight. It was a brilliant driving fight. Overall, again, surprised me how well it's done. Like, that first fight against Starchild was, okay, Starchild is a new robot. It's kind of hard to gauge how good it is. But we know Claw Viper's excellent. It's beaten Ribot, it's beaten Ominous without really breaking a sweat, and it gave him a tough match. And I think Claw Viper lost a side of drive towards the end as well. So it was
it popped out just at the very end. So had it gone a bit longer, they may have swung it in their favor in the end.
The last sort of 30 seconds at least, maybe minute, Overhaul really came back strongly, and they turned Claw Viper over, they put him under the pulverizer. It was really quite surprising. But yeah, wonderful to watch.
Yeah. There's a strange point in this fight where Claw Viper is chasing Overhaul around and it bumps a kill saw slot and just kind of gets stuck there. I wonder if he was having trouble with his electromagnets. I like the conspiracy theory and think that these magnets are so strong that they pulled the kill saws up and just stuck him there. But it looks like he just bumped or maybe something reset in the robot, because no sooner than later he was off and away again and dragging Overhaul over all across the box, just giving him a tour. Very similar to how we've seen Quantum do this season. Is just grab a bot and just send it. But Overhaul did a good job in coming back toward the end of this fight. There was a point where the idiot strap might have come undone.
It comes undone right at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe there was a way back in after that, because that's really that alone has improved Claw Vipers considerably. It's taken out the problems of tossing a bot completely over you, and if he's got a weapon, it's going to clip your back wheels possibly. But it's been a remarkable run so far. The fact of them possibly going undefeated and going into the bracket is just beyond me.
Again, hands up if you'd have thought that would have happened at the start of the season. None of you.
Absolutely not.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It really
it's lovely.
is.
There's this potential.
But it's nice when a new robot comes through like this. Obviously Claw Viper's not a new robot. It's been here for this is its third season.
It's nice to finally see it doing what Kevin wanted it to do back in 2020.
That leap of evolution is just fantastic, and it does make me think as well. Obviously, Matt, you kind of alluded to you like watching the control bots, Quantum, Claw Viper, things like that. Does it kind of inspire you a little bit? Does it make you think, ooh, maybe Crusher Kraken could have done this? I don't know. What do you think?
No.
Done. Moving on.
I like what we're building now. I think the damage potential is definitely there, because I think Zach Lytle said it, and he said, competing with a control bot is like competing in BattleBots in hard mode, right? And it's already really hard. So it's more like God mode. And the fact that Kevin and the Quantum team, the Cooper brothers, and Charles are doing as well as they are, is just a real testament to how well those gentlemen are doing right now with their robots. It's not easy to win with a control bot, and they're doing it anyway. So that's awesome. I'm super happy for them. I'm gonna keep spinning a hunk of steel at the front of my robot and smash it into people.
There we go.
Fair enough. I don't blame you at all. Steve,
Yes.
who comes next for these two?
All right. So coming up next for Claw Viper, in order to go
Its
for
last
now,
fight, yeah.
its last
Yeah.
fight is against Hypershock. So it's gonna have to do what it
Yeah.
did to Ribot, basically,
Well,
and then
Jevon
just
is worried
boss the
somewhere.
fight.
Yeah, I mean, both absolute speed demons in the arena, and Hypershock's next fight is also against Endgame, which is going to be a tough match for it to kind of recover from. I know they've got a lot of Hypershocks there, but it's still going to be, a difficult fight to prepare for either way. And Claw Viper's on a tear.
Mm-hmm.
No reason why they can't beat them. Absolutely, we know that Hypershock, as much as it is dangerous upside down, doesn't like being upside down. And we saw what happened with P1 last year. There's no reason why Claw Viper can't do exactly the same thing.
That's the plan. And then Overhaul has Cobalt.
Ooh.
So
no.
I don't know what Charles is going to do with grabbing Cobalt. It's a very slippery machine.
There's not really much to grab hold of. Like, where do you get it?
It's going to be a tricky fight. I think
that's a given. Cobalt's really good.
Yeah, and Cobalt's on a
Cobalt's
different...
scary.
Yeah, we'll see later how scary it is. We'll see how they do in that fight. I mean, I don't give him a chance in hell, but you never know.
Hey, look,
that's why I want to keep spinning stuff.
Yes.
When the doors close, you never know what's going to happen, do you? I suppose.
Yeah, you don't. You never know.
Well, speaking of stuff that spins, there's lots of spinning action in the next fight between Name 1 and Name 2 on our screen, but in the post edit, you won't see that. It's Horizon and Monsoon. Now, the emotions felt by Mr. Brewster, it definitely brought a little tear to the eye, didn't it? Because they have had to work so hard. We know that every team does. Not that they've worked any harder than anyone else or any less hard, but knowing what happened last year when the crate arrived and they couldn't go, and it was just sat there in Vegas, a fully complete robot waiting, and not being able to fight. The outpouring of emotion was just very nice, and it was cool seeing Monsoon's kind of wedge setup as well.
Yeah, that's a nice look for it,
doesn't it? Yeah,
it's a nice clean look. I don't know. I kind of like the ability to be able to hinge and stuff like that, but having that wedge across the front, of course, makes it more hardy. They definitely respected the power that Horizon can have possibly. And I think they took that into consideration. But man, oh man, this box rush, he just completely sends it out of the square, and Horizon does not know what time zone it is in after it gets hit, and it's no sooner after that hit that it's just completely over. 1 or 2 or 3 hits later, Horizon's on top of the pulverizer with a huge gash in its gullet. I mean,
there's a lot of damage on Horizon.
It's a lot of damage in a short period of time, for sure.
The followers of the Horizon social media pages will see this enormous gash underneath the robot where it's just like Monsoon has just gone straight. I mean, you can see it on the TV edit. It's very obvious. There's a big black hole on the blue base plate, and it's quite destructive, to say the least. Monsoon is no joke, very clearly.
Yeah, it looked like a velociraptor went after Horizon in that one. It just ripped his guts out.
Yeah.
Very visceral, but it really was. It's a shame for Horizon. They didn't really get a chance to show us what they could do. But I think relief for the Monsoon team, considering they had a difficult first fight with Black Dragon, and this was, a lot of pent-up aggression let out, I think, after that.
It was a long time coming on this one.
I would think so. And Horizon just has no time to spin up, and that's the weakness of this design, honestly, at this scale. Where even the 12-pound one, I mean, the 12-pound one gets up to speed pretty quick, but the box is smaller. It's a tough ask for this design to meet the what's the word
threshold of BattleBots, if you like.
It's going to be tricky going forward to see how they evolve this design going forward. If BattleBots invites them back next time, I'd like to see what choices they can make going forward. But it's been rough these first two fights. Seeing Horizon, I know that there's definitely potential in this idea, but it just hasn't shown it yet. It looks pretty, but
it surely does. The kind of vaporwave color scheme is lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I love this bot. I love that they're doing something totally different that no one else is doing. They haven't figured out just yet, but at the same time, they're doing something no one else has tried to do, right? So it's not going to be like, hey, I just took Bite Force and I painted it different colors.
Right.
It is a completely different robot. So they're learning from their small bot and the success that they've had there, and it's like, hey, we need to do this differently. Like you said, you got to get the weapon up to speed faster. We got to get out of the starting square quicker. We're a big target, so we need to be fast and be able to be maneuverable. So,
can you imagine if this bot could strafe?
Oh my gosh! Yes.
There'd be so much
added complexity, but
much going on.
Yeah. But just, I mean, when you really look at it, the center pod being so small, it is a small target. So if they can get around and start dodging their opponents and kind of using that big arm to rotate around and catch them on the sides or the back of the people's armor, which is almost always exposed tires back there, it really opens up the opportunity to really start landing some hits to critical areas that aren't as heavily armored as some of the others. So there's a lot of potential with that design, and I hope they get the opportunity to figure it out, because I really like it. I think it's really neat and new and innovative. And I hope they get a chance to really get it dialed in.
Yeah, and we've seen wide robots like this before, like even with Smee in the past few seasons, where it has this really wide frame and smaller but particularly placed weapons, where if it wraps around you in just the right way, it'll cut places that maybe you weren't expecting to get hit. Or maybe places that aren't as armored, or wheels and stuff like that. So it's got potential. Just it's been a rough go.
It's one of those where it's good that they have 4 fights.
Yes,
they've still got 2 more opportunities to show what they can do.
Definitely,
that's true. Like in the old seasons, like previous seasons, like old seasons, you'd only get a couple, and you wouldn't be guaranteed more than a couple fights to just prove your worth. But now it's you have a set schedule. You can start out horrible and then win your next 2 fights, and then maybe sneak into the bracket and make a couple surprises happen. After you do some learning.
That probably would have been it. In previous seasons, they didn't really move very well against Shredded Bro, and then got thrashed by Monsoon. They probably would have gotten 2 fights in previous seasons. So the fact that they've got 2 more to get the bot dialed in and get it worked out is a huge bonus for the builders. And I think, a great opportunity. Every chance you get to get in the box, you get an opportunity to learn and get better and improve. And I think we're going to see that with Horizon. And I think having an off season where you have all your parts, in your first season, it's just difficult to get all the parts you need to build the robot. It's so hard. And then the next year, you kind of have a robot that now you're able to focus on testing and tuning and making your robot better and incremental improvements. You don't have to worry about building a whole robot from nothing because you already have a robot. So that year 1 to year 2 transition, you see a lot of bots make a huge jump because the struggles that you had in the year before, you don't have those same struggles. So you can make a big improvement this following year.
Definitely.
A good point.
Well, you mentioned full schedules. Steve, who's next for these 2?
So Horizon, their next spot on their schedule is Shatter.
Well, we mentioned strafing, didn't we? So
yeah, we did.
It leads in.
I mean, it's maybe they'll take that and go forward. Maybe we'll see that next year. And then Monsoon has Whiplash. So Monsoon with a really nice fight, nice win under the belt now. Hopefully bringing the momentum forward against the bot that's hungry for a win because they've had a tough start to their season.
0-2 Whiplash going into that.
I was going to say, if Whiplash aren't winning that, and then they have a certain orange speed bump as their 4th fight, ooh, struggle time for Whiplash. So we'll see how those 2 fare in that fight as well. I think that'll be a bit of a classic.
Yeah. Also, thank you, BattleBots, for my 5 seconds of fame. I appreciated that.
Oh, yes.
We got to see Steve very much front and center in the crowd of this one. So thank you, BattleBots editing team, for that one.
More of me repping the UK teams.
I know.
Yeah, it just keeps
Steve,
happening.
The American Killjoy.
I can't
Are you sure? Oh, dear me. Fight number 4. The big boys, Starchild and Mammoth. we kind of got a little bit of a bit of a throwback to the huge fight, didn't we? Where it kind of Mammoth doing backflips around the arena, doing silly things. We had Anna from Ripperoni on the commentary team as well. Coming for Chris and Kenny's jobs, I think, because she was really good.
Yeah,
she was really good.
I think after the first few times where team captains were brought out to the box side, I think it was more understood at this point that you were able to actually, participate in the commentary. Like I feel like they were brought box side. I think Will said we didn't know what to do. We were told nothing. We just sit there and talk. But I feel like as the time went on,
Anna's kind of a natural on that one though. Like she's just able to just talk about robots, like we had it earlier on in the week, for example, and she's just very good at that.
Yeah,
and she actually made an interesting point on the air where they keep. I think she might have said it last week where they keep giving Starchild these huge bots to fight against,
and said give him a 4-wheel drive Metavert. That's what they want to fight. This is a terrible matchup for Starchild because the problem that Starchild has is a robot has to fit between the wheels for it to hit it, or like near enough. It has to kind of be kind of in there. You can't fit Mammoth in there.
You can't fit Mammoth in anything.
You can't. It's not true. No. It's not possible. But like,
it's not a very portable climbing frame.
No, I mean
exactly.
They do get a good few hits off on it. Like there is some great photos from the Mammoth team showing what damage took place, but it's just not a good fight for Starchild, and they do just kind of get rolled around and bullied around for 3 minutes.
Because they got carried around the arena as well for a certain period, followed by a slightly janky edit because there wasn't enough stick on this.
All of a sudden, they're not together anymore.
Yeah, that was edited out this time.
Well, no, this is the second time this season where Mammoth has eaten another robot.
That's true. This is the second time
they keep editing around it on sticks.
Mammoth is just such an awkward beast. He just kind of eats everything else and just refuses to elaborate any further.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they aren't showing that because there'd be calls for banning Mammoth for entanglement all over the place.
Oh god, we don't want another quantum incident with that. No.
Yes. He got stuck twice. Ban him.
Yeah.
It's
I will say,
isn't it? Yeah.
Brandon was hoping that he could snipe Mammoth's chain while he was stuck like that.
Or just like hook it, or like hook it on the weapon and just pull it out or something. I don't know. It was trying to just cause problems to Mammoth while it was stuck on top of it. But
they just get. But the thing is, they just get stuck prone, and then at that point.
It's just you're probably wondering how I got here,
Yeah. Literally. It was again just a joyous thing to watch, wasn't it? Like just two very, very different machines fighting each other. One is just all wheels and this weird weapon. It's brilliant. This is what BattleBots is all about for me. Like like just very different designs going against each other, and they both. In their own
just
right,
having fun.
And they're both, ultimately they are both competitive as well. Obviously, with Starchild we haven't seen it in BattleBots yet, but if the smaller weight classes are anything to go by, it's only a matter of time. And Mammoth, surprises us every year how good it does, doesn't it? Really, there's always a fight that they kind of just shock us. Like last year it was Tombstone,
or even an echo to this fight with Huge, where Mammoth kind of has, in the time since its fought use, has kind of lost the ability that it used to knock Huge out of that fight, where now we have the sneeze guards on the sides now, where you can't out of the arena a robot like Huge or Starchild by getting one of their wheels outside the wall. That
they were close though over the saloon doors. It was going, wasn't it? And I thought,
they had a good go.
First Ooter of the season goes to Mammoth. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
it is a matter of time before something goes over the saloon doors. I mean, they can keep trying to prevent out of the arenas. They're just going to happen less often. But I can't say whether or not I did or did not see one, but it's one of those things where like there's going to be one.
Someone will find a way. Someone will find a way.
Life finds a way.
Exactly.
Where there's a will, there's a way, and BattleBot builders really want to get that bot out of that arena.
Exactly. I
think it's cool. Like on this one, just watching Mammoth, it's like a giant kid's swing set that weighs 250 pounds. Throwing itself, 10 feet in the air. It's just hysterical to me. It's like,
just
imagine your kids.
There's this one photo. I can't remember where I saw it, but like, there's a photo of like Mammoth is above Starchild, and like Starchild's not on the ground either. Like they're both in the air, and I'm like, how is this? Like Mammoth is 6 foot tall when the arm is like fully up. It is a big robot. Starchild is a big robot. Like if you stood next to it, you'd be like, holy shit, it's massive.
Yes.
Like, how is this possible? Like the amount of energy that these robots kind of throw around, and like, you know, the momentum that they carry is just unbelievable. Yeah, spectacular fight, and just
it's crazy. I mean, there was a lot of relief from Ricky as well winning this fight.
Yeah, I mean, they, as he said, they normally win their first fight, but this year they didn't.
No.
And they, you know, they normally kind of, as much as schedules in the past have kind of gone, well, okay, you won your first fight, let's give you something slightly harder, which, you know, they've kind of had before. Like this year, they haven't had that issue. They had their, I say, harder fight first, I guess, in Valkyrie, but yeah, the relief was clear to see. As for Starchild, I mean, where do they go from here? They're 0-2, yeah. And you know, we mentioned they're fighting Gigabyte next anyway.
It's a bot they're more suited to fight, though. It's a bot that is more likely to fit within those two wheels, as long as that pole isn't getting in the way. Maybe they can chop that off. That's going to be a tricky fight. I imagine it'll stand up to Gigabyte's spinner, but I mean, other than that, it's going to require precise aiming of that disc on the arm to really do some serious damage to Gigabyte, and hopefully they can do what the Huge did to Gigabyte years ago, and you know, get a surprise KO or just rack up enough points that, you know, that they're not too beat up toward the end. I mean, we'll see.
Well, like you said, having a low opponent allows them to really get the inertia of that spinning disc to come down with a lot of velocity on it. You know, when they're hitting Mammoth up high and they're hitting Overhaul high, it doesn't have a lot of energy in the swing, right? You're trying to get that blade in fast, and they can't get it in fast because they're just trying to get it vertical. Yeah. So with a bot like Gigabyte, allows them to really bring that weapon down quickly and build momentum, so it can really dig in and land some big hits. So it's not a great fight for Starchild, but I would say it's probably better than Overhaul and Mammoth. You know, really allow them to at least showcase what their weapon can do.
Definitely.
Mammoth. Yeah, Mammoth has quite a beast in their sights with Death Roll. Death Roll, after a very convincing win over Switchback, is looking to just keep the ball rolling. And I can see a way forward for them, as long as they don't end up, you know, getting to trying to pick their spots too much. I have a feeling if they start maneuvering around, trying to get around and get perfect shots on Mammoth, maybe Mammoth finds a way forward. But that's a really tough fight.
It's one that suits Death Roll, isn't it? Because it's just their weapon forwards, and they just get that stuck in. So there's no ground game shenanigans in a way. So keep an eye on that. They know of. You never know. There might be some setup, but you got to throw this spanner in the works, you know. But sure. In theory, it should be all right for Death Roll, but we'll see.
Yes, we will see.
There's also a lot of places for Mammoth to get hooked under too, which is what they want to do. Swing underneath. You know, they're not trying to get underneath a bot like Cobalt or something where it's a real slippy, sloped armor. You know, Death Roll's got some curved edges underneath, so Mammoth has opportunities to get underneath and hook different areas. So I think both of them are thinking. I definitely think Mammoth is thinking this is their toughest fight in their schedule. But Death Roll, I don't think is going to be looking at this one as an easy cupcake walk either. No. So I think it'll be a competitive match. Could go either way.
Definitely,
that's the way we like it.
Yes, we do indeed. We do indeed. Fight number 5: Triton versus Copperhead.
Did we have too much weapon?
Yeah. Me and Steve have a lot to say about this fight, particularly before the fight.
I'll let you two go first. Go on.
Yeah, you go ahead, David. See if you can rack my memory.
So, the night before...
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
It's our first trip to the pub, and just Chris and Lindsay are there alongside. And we're just chill and have a nice chat. And Luke appears a little bit later on, and Luke wasn't sober, I think. That's the best way to describe it. Luke was very happy and slightly loud, but that's fine. He was lovable there. And they were coming up with ideas for what to do for a intro. And I can't remember who it was between us who came up with the idea.
I think it was Jevin. I want to say
it was.
We'll blame Jevin because he's not here.
Exactly. Right. Why don't you just do a weekend at Bernie's with Luke, and then just everything will be fine? And this worked out remember, he appeared late in the pits that morning as well because of the
hangover. So he comes out with this hat, his drink hat, his sunglasses.
And like it was the chain that did it for me. It was,
yeah.
He was dripping, absolutely dripping.
He had the drip. He wasn't awake, but he had the drip.
Yeah,
it was awake enough for the fight, though. I mean, he kind of.
It had some coffee in time. It was fine.
I was going to say, I wouldn't like to do BattleBots with a hangover. I imagine my head would be pounding, but
yeah, we were glad to have a nice effect. We've had a couple of effects on the season, so that's a cool one to look back.
There's more to come.
Excellent. As for the fight itself, I thought Triton was doing really well.
Yes,
it started I thought this was going to be not a dead rubber win for Copperhead, but I thought I was confident that Copperhead was going to do the business, and then Triton was moving around so nicely, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, I know Tombstone isn't here. I'm more than happy for Triton to kind of fill that void though for this year, because the way he was moving around the arena, if Tombstone traveled like that, you'd be like, oh my god, I'm going nowhere near that thing,
right?
And it's the same kind of effects, you just don't know what to do with it because it's zipping about. You're like, okay, where do I touch it? Yeah. And there was just one slight bit of oversteer. I imagine the weapon kind of pulled it around, and there's just a slight oversteer that just snatches the Copperhead drum, and then the whole world falls out of Triton's backside.
As you're talking here, Sam, I just keep looping that. It's just one of the most spectacular hits I've ever seen. We've seen explosions. We've seen shrapnel fly everywhere. We have not seen gut ripping like this in a long time. Just bits everywhere. So much so that the fight ends with Copperhead stuck on a battery pack
that was
previously inside Triton.
The best bit about that as well is Triton's bar nudges the battery just underneath Copperhead at the end
just
as well.
In passing glance, if I go down, I'm taking you with me.
Yeah. Just to say, BattleBots is not scripted, but that was hilarious.
So good. Oh my goodness!
Just remarkable. Maybe a little teensy bit more. Maybe shock absorbing armor on the back. I don't know what you do if you're trying.
He's going to say more weapons.
This is the second time. This is the second time this season Copperhead has exploded an opponent. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's no joke. So maybe there's just nothing they could do to kind of accommodate that, because Copperhead is a beast. Absolutely. But the way it failed was just incredible. I imagine it could do that to most opponents, right? We'll get to a little bit later on, Matt, but obviously I'm sure you had a little eye on this fight.
Yeah.
I mean, the damage from Triton, it reminded me of like an insect weight robot, like an ant weight or a beetle weight or something like that, where, it's like you don't have any weight for armor and all the wires are just stuck in, and maybe you put a little dab of hot glue to hold stuff in place. Mm-hmm. Like that was what the damage looked like out of Triton. It just, everything came out, which makes it super easy to work on because you've got all your pieces.
Just start again. Just throw it in the skip and start again. I think
there's this void of where it used to be, and it's like, I'm sure it fits in here somehow.
Yeah.
It was. I also did enjoy. Obviously, Copperhead this time using the horizontal setup, but just nicely positioned on the wedge. Was one of the sacrificial little annoyance snakes. And
they told us as well the night before they were going to put that there as we're going to guilt trip you into ruining this. And
it just said full send, didn't it? I think, or send. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was very nice to see. Copperhead moving to 2-0.
Yep.
With two fairly spectacular wins.
Too quick.
We haven't had a lot of R&D time with this new Copperhead, but then again, what's changed with it really? I mean, I'm sure they're upgrading bits on the inside, but
a lot of repair time between the last two fights. I mean, that we know about that one, that it took a long time to get it fixed up after Bloodsport.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the other thing to kind of consider as well is it's a new driver, so more stick time. It might, and obviously Luke is massively experienced at insect weight level and other weight classes, but it's still as we've discussed with many teams, these robots are different. They have a lot of weight to them. They move differently to insect weights. It's not an easy thing to kind of. It's not a one-to-one, comparison. There is a learning curve to driving heavyweights compared to insects, but Yeah.
Copperhead's got their toughest fight of the tournament, I think, in their next match.
We'll get to that later on. I think you might be right, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. But Triton has who next, Steve?
Triton has Glitch. So
we haven't seen Glitch for a while.
Yeah, Glitch
been missing
Glitch
for
has
a
had
while.
Glitch has had an event for sure.
Glitch has had a glitch.
Yeah, they've been working on fixing those glitches. Yeah, I'm hoping for a better fight from Glitch, but this is a really tough draw for them and for Triton. Because with what we just saw happen to Triton and with Glitch's evisceration of Rotator last season, it very easily could happen again here after we just saw this. And I still have the fight playing in the background. I see Brad just kind of go like this, and then Shay with like, oh my god, I felt so bad for them.
Oh, bless them.
But it's just a beautiful hit. But I don't know. It could be a better fight for Triton as long as they keep the weapon facing the other robot. If they don't slip on ice like they did in this fight. I don't know. It's hard because there's recency bias here. But I don't know. I rate them.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then Copperhead's next fight is up against. Well, we'll see.
We'll see who maybe it's someone in our next fight. I think it could be because our next fight is Lucky versus Kraken. Now, before we even get to the fight, we actually have a good leading question into it from a guy called Kodok Bazaar. I think that's how you pronounce it, from YouTube, who asks, what caused the drive issues in the fight?
Yeah, so we had problem driving in our match with Beta, and we thought there was like 80 things wrong with Kraken, and we fixed 79 of them. But the one that was the real problem was the vest tuning, like I mentioned earlier, and we didn't get that one solved. We thought like we had spent, it wasn't from lack of trying to get the vest tuned. We had been trying. And we had worked for 2 days straight trying to get this robot back functional, right? So the tire tread, you saw the tread get ripped off in the beta match. Okay, new tires, new tread. Okay, is the armor getting hung up on the floor? All right, grind down different parts of the armor, cut this piece off, take this out, move this around, try and adjust the weight here, adjust this, try and get the armor to line up just right so that it's not going to be dragging on the floor at all. And then, oh, by the way, let's try and retune these vests, tune the vest, put the robot in, drive around. Nope, that didn't do it. Try it again. Put it in, tweak this setting, put it in, take it out. And so we had the robot in and out of the arena, too many times, 10, 15 times in and out of the arena, retuning the drive. And every time we have to retune it, we had to take all the batteries off the top. We had to pull the armor off, pull the battery tray out. Then the vests are down at the bottom, retune the vest, put it all back together again, put it all back in, take it all back out to the arena, 250 pounds on the cart, off the cart, on the cart, off the cart, on the cart, off the cart. And it was just, it was 2 long, hard days of hard work. And at the end, the robot still didn't move very well. It was very disappointing and frustrating. And it was demoralizing. I'll be honest with you. It was demoralizing. Like, know what the robot should be able to do, and just know that it's just out of reach. Like, it's just beyond what we can get to right now. It was tough. It was really tough. So, but thankfully I will say, I'll spoiler alert, we get the drive fixed for our next match, and it drives fantastically. It was the first time that putting it in the test box the next day, I think after Brian helped us from Team Tantrum, it was the first time I was ever able to get the robot to drive in a straight line, do a 180 turn, and drive back to the other side of the box. And it was just like
the relief.
I wanted to cry.
It's got to be such a liberating feeling after all that work.
Yeah,
it's funny because obviously we speak to a lot of teams. We've always kind of it's always nice when you win, obviously, but we've always discussed you learn so much when you lose as well, and and.
I'm practically a genius.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to say, like at this point, I'm not going to bring it up too quickly, but like this is now, is it 7 fights back to back that you've not won? It's something like that. I think so. It's either,
it's a lot. It's a significant number.
Like do you obviously you love robot combat. You've done it for many, many years. But is there ever a point where you just think, do you know what? I just don't care anymore. I've had enough. Like, does that point ever come, or has it come? And have you gone through it? Is that something that you've kind of had to consider before?
So I think at the end of last season, it was kind of like, do I belong here? Am I good enough to compete at this level? I went through that last year. At the end of last year, that was where I was. Am I good enough to compete at this level? And that was tough. And there was a lot of soul searching, and I had to get back. We built little robots with my kids, little 1 pound robots, and competed with little robots like that. And I started working on a beat away to 3 pounder, and it was kind of like, this is fun. I love doing this. I've been doing it for 20 years. And the reason I love doing it is not because I win or because I lose or because of whatever. It's fun to build stuff and go hang out with my friends and smash each other's stuff together. I have a lot of fun with that. And so this season, like, we went in with the expectations that we might not win any fights. This robot is a learning tool. And we are going to maximize the learning that we can do this season. And we learned a ton. And I feel like this fight didn't showcase what Kraken could do. I felt like in the last fight against Beta, we at least got to see, like, hey, we got a weapon that can tear some stuff up. If we can get the drive sorted out, we have a real contender here. And this fight, Lucky is, Matt is such a great driver of Lucky. And our drive was even worse for this one than it was against the Lucky fight. And it just felt like we didn't get to even showcase what we could do because the bot was so bad. So, this was a tough one. But then after that, like I said, we got it sorted out for our next fight. And it was like, okay, now we got something. We got this robot that's got a mean weapon. We got a robot that's super fast. And I'm really excited about, what this robot can become. And we've identified, in the off season, all the stuff that was wrong with this robot and what we want to change for next season. And it's like, it did exactly what it was designed to do, which was just teach me as much as we can so I can make the next robot a championship winning robot.
Well, we already know you're going to win next season.
So. Yeah, it's already in. It's already in.
See the script,
engrave my name on the nut right now. Just do that.
There was another question from a guy called Aldrin Miles Partosa. I hope I've said that right. I've probably not. I'm really sorry.
Sounds about right.
Who asks?
You did good.
Thank you. Who asks, how different or similar is it driving new Kraken compared to the old one, and does the giant spinner on the arm affect the maneuverability? I'm guessing it's quite a lot. It does.
Yeah. I guess we'll compare. We'll do the comparison of the best that this. We haven't seen the best that this one has driven, but knowing how well this one drives after all the fixes that you made, how does it compare to old Kraken?
It is night and day different. This one is so quick. It's unforgiving for driving mistakes. The last one was so slow that if I made I just moved the stick a little bit too far to the right or oversteered or understeered just a little bit, I could correct it pretty quickly, right? And it wouldn't get me into trouble. This one is so fast that every little driving mistake is amplified. Like if you look at Kevin with Claw Viper and how fast he is, like he is on it. And you can see, like, if he oversteers just a little bit, like it oversteers a lot. So with this version of Kraken, like I said, I had no driving time. The first time I got to drive it, like actually at all, was after this fight with Lucky, where the first time where the bot actually did what I told it to do. So it's very unforgiving in that regard. But at the same time, it's so fast that, like, if I get myself in trouble, I just zoom out of there and then I regroup and recalibrate and I can go back in. So with the old Kraken, I didn't have that ability. I didn't have that, like, get away from them and get your bearings back. It was you have to be on them and stay on them. Otherwise they're going to literally rip you apart. So
yeah,
there's a very different style to the driving that I had to learn.
Yeah, and we saw in this fight, you really could have used some of that escaping power because Lucky is just on you continuously. You're on the far half side of the box for the majority of the fight. He gets you up on the shelf a few times. You try to get down, he throws you right back up there. He's basically just corralling you around that and just trying to, like, he's basically just supervising the shelf. Saying, like, what side's he going to come down on? And then he has you up against the pulverizer, and Matt just does a really good job in in control and backs off when he needs to, but gets right back in there, and then he starts to smoke. So is there I mean, I don't know if there was enough time left on the clock, but that would have been really cheeky for you to come out just enough to survive, even though he did all the work.
Right.
But
No, yeah, I would have felt awful if they'd have died and we'd have won, because I would have felt terrible. I don't want to win like that. Like, I would rather lose and be owned than to sneak one out like that at the end. We had, and I was able to see it on the video, because like we can't tell like what actually happened in the robot, but I was down to my last wheel moving. I had one of the 4 tires was spinning, and it was like, this is worse than a 2-wheel drive robot.
Right? I mean, at least, they're already hard to drive.
I mean, we've seen you drive Kraken with one wheel perfectly fine before.
You're the master of 2-wheel drive robots, for that.
Yeah. Obviously, we kind of brought it up before, Steve. I know we've kind of gushed about Matt Olson's driving as well, but like, is he like, Matt? Is he one of the best in the field? Like,
oh yeah, definitely, absolutely, because he has a robot with the flipper in Lucky that he has to drive perfectly. It's not like a spinner where he can just bump into you and then send you forward, and you're off balance and he can just kind of constantly attack. He has to put that weapon in a strategic place, fire it at just the right time that you go flying, and don't tear up the arm, which is really easy to do on a flipper. So I felt like yeah, he's definitely one of the best out there for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's breathed life back. I mean, we've said it ad nauseum at this point. He really has breathed a lot of life back into a robot that's been around for quite some time.
It struggled, It struggled a lot, didn't it, over the last few years, and then
it's had trouble trying to keep up with the field as it advances. But it's still here.
One thing I'll say,
taking names.
One thing I'll say, my favorite thing about the way Lucky looked in this fight, the flared wheel arches.
That was cool. That's a cool look.
That was their armor just to protect from Kraken, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think we saw it in the pits beforehand, because we got a chance to wander around nearby you guys.
But even then, like, it was just like, I mean, obviously there was a need for it, but like, it just looked phenomenal, didn't it? It just completed it just a little bit more. Yeah.
I really was hoping our drive would work, because with the drivetrain working properly, we would have just went 4-wheel drive vert mode, because they armored up the top for top attack Kraken. And the versatility of Kraken is you get to pick where I'm going to hit you from. You can either pick the defending the top, or you can pick defending the side, which is what our opponents always did with old Kraken. They would just armor up on top, and we didn't have another attack method. But with this version, we could spin up, but the drive was so terrible, and that right front tire was just locked up. It was like, keep the head up and back. So at least put some of the weight on the rear tire, so I can hopefully overcome that.
Which then affected your strategy going into the fight as well.
It just changed the whole strategy. So it really made it difficult.
It just means you've got to have a third fight with Lucky, right?
Yeah. They've beaten us twice now. And,
you owe them at least one back, surely.
Yeah. They owe me one now.
I think they deserve to fight you at full strength at some point.
At some point, because even in the first one, the jaw broke and fell on the floor, and so they won that one. But it still was a robot that wasn't at 100%. So
third time's the charm.
Exactly.
Third time's the charm. I'll fight Lucky again.
So it's going to be on your championship running run next year, obviously.
That's the title fight.
I'll have to take him out to win the giant nut, the way they've improved every
What a
year.
final that would be.
I just want to see a situation. It's like, how has this happened? It's Kraken Lucky again. We'll get to Kraken's next fight a little bit later on. But who's next for Lucky, Steve?
Lucky's next fight's up against Shreddit Bro. And I don't think it's Shreddit Bro's next fight. I think it's the one after that one.
Shreddit's got Ominous in that interim,
So we'll see how they go on against Ominous. I'll hold my thoughts on what could be. We
already know that we know that Shreddit Bro gets better incrementally every fight as well. We've been told this already. Lucky's on a tear at the moment though, and if they win their next fight, they are 3-0. Which again, who would have thought that at the start of the season? The fact that Lucky's having a great season as well.
Yeah, and Shreddit Bro is such a compact design. It's almost a perfect matchup for Lucky, ideally, unless Shreddit Bro can really get that drum up to speed, and and then it's off to the races. So I'd like to see Shreddit Bro get some hits on Lucky, but it's going to be a tricky fight with how how good Lucky's been up to this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Shredded Bro, that after their first fight, really struggled with drive, and a driver like Matt will just own that. He will just take advantage of that. He won't take those hits from the drum. He'll circle around the back and get to the backside of Shredded Bro, and just
so Evans got his work cut out for him, and he's a good driver too. Just with a bot that can actually, if it can move.
Right. And I know Shredded Bro, they were right next to us in the battery tent, and I know they were struggling with their vest tuning as well. So hopefully they got it. Brian sat down with them for 3 hours and helped them figure their robot out as well.
Right.
Oh dear. One day we'll all turn up to BattleBots and the vest will just work, and it'll be, and it'll be beautiful.
Indeed. But in that time, it's one of these lovely bits of the community where everybody will do their best to help out each other in the pits to make sure we get the best fights possible.
Absolutely. And that's the best part about BattleBots. And it's the part they don't really talk about, is how much the other teams help each other in the pits. It truly is. There's so much inner teamwork. It's really unbelievable. And it's why I've stayed in, right? Because the people are great. If the people were terrible, I'd have bounced out. But the people are great. So
Absolutely. Well, we'll move on to the main event. Before, obviously, we talk about the actual fight itself. There was that lovely segment with Brent Riker as well, which who supposedly is now doing quite well. He's started to recover and is having some positive effects from all the treatment that he's had. So hopefully he continues his recovery quickly, and we'll see him back at BattleBots before you know it. And there was the great segment where they took him around the pits and the little cardboard cutout. That was lovely. That was really, really nice. And I'm glad they included it.
Yeah. And that's the thing with it doesn't matter who you are, cancer doesn't care. So it's, I hope for a speedy recovery for him. It does look like he's doing better. So,
Absolutely.
And it's been some time since this was filmed. So,
Yeah, exactly. Now, talking about, is this the best fight of the season so far? Because I feel like it's right there if it's not.
I would think so. I mean, we've had some really good spectacle fights and really great moments so far. This one for 3 minutes was just classic. It ground and pound, and it just there's so much to unpack here. We have
where'd you start? Like, where'd you start? I can watch the there's fights where whenever you, for me, if I'm trying to introduce someone to Robot Combat or BattleBots, there's certain fights that I'll go to. For example, one of them is your fight against Witch Doctor from a few years ago, where you just it's two so different styles, and shows that how effective different styles of robot can be. This is one of those fights, kind of like when Minotaur fought Tombstone a few years ago, where it's just two heavy bruisers just taking chunks out of each other left and right, and it's beautiful. It was both drivers spectacular. Dave was harrying and chasing as much as he could with Cobalt. He was following Minotaur around. Minotaur was doing the lovely gyro dancing all over the box. It was balletic in some regard, and there's that lovely moment where they're both like nose to nose, and they might touch, but they might not, and they're just getting closer and closer. You're like, oh, what's gonna happen? It was I love this fight so much. I'm a big fan.
It is a remarkable step up from the last time that these two met. The last time that they met was a play-in fight for the bracket, and Cobalt ended up worse for the wear. It didn't quite work out the way that they thought. They go with a similar weapon. This is basically the Bone Blade, just painted black. It appears the same geometry. Might be a different material. Who knows? But yeah, it's
these special forks this time, haven't they?
Yeah,
to try and combat Minotaur.
That really was.
It was working for them, because every time they just get underneath them, and it wasn't until the first fork goes quite early on, but the one was still holding on. As soon as that second fork goes later in the fight, it is fight over, and then Minotaur just turns it over, and that's it. And then quite cleverly, Markham was there just telling him to leave it alone, because they'd already righted it once. Like Cobalt was over by the saloon door on the Red Square side. I know, it was started smoking, and Minotaur just had
it's just venting out its smoke towards Cobalt. Just enjoy this.
I mean, obviously we know everyone watches the fights from the pits. Matt, did you manage to see this one whilst it was happening, or were you busy at the time?
I don't think I saw this one because I think we were back. We may have been in like either in the battery tent putting batteries in, or just after this may have been just after our fight, and we were pulling the batteries out of ours and getting it back to the pit. So I didn't see this one live. But yeah, it was awesome. I'll watch that one again.
Yeah, it was incredible
anytime.
watching it from the stands on this one. It was
Oh goodness. There's fights like that where you do like I'll get to see them, and especially like when we're backstage queuing up for the next fight, and like I got to see Ribot Endgame, that fight from a couple years ago. And oh my god, you couldn't even like see like the bots because they were below the wall. We couldn't see them, but you could just see sparks flying up and the lights are breaking and there's pieces flying everywhere, and it's like
Endgame bouncing away.
Yep.
Yes. Oh
So
gosh,
good.
it's so cool. So like I can only imagine the audience being out in the audience for this one, and just the sparks and the energy flying around with these two. Oh, these was two heavyweight fighters throwing haymakers at each other for 3 minutes. Like, I'm not going to block you. You don't block me. We're just going to trade blows back and forth until one of us dies. And it was awesome. I love that about both of these machines. Neither one backed down, both just bringing the heat. So it was great.
It's worthy of a final, honestly. I mean,
they said
this very
commentary
very easily could be a preview for something to see later. Could you imagine if they meet again in the bracket? I mean, obviously,
even more chaotic, probably.
Well, and I think that's the whole new schedule that we've got. Is they've pitted robots that it's like, okay, here's your tough fight. You've got two that are like it's your level, and then there should be one that you win, right? So like in every bracket, you've got two tough matches, that are kind of at your level. One where you're kind of punching up against somebody that's better than you, and one that you're punching down. And with these two, it's like you two are at the top, you're fighting each other,
right?
Yeah. And
you're
go
both
at it.
Each
And let's
other's
see what
hardest
happens.
fight.
Yeah.
So I really love the new schedule. It definitely, I think, evened out the matches a lot more than we've seen in previous years. I feel a lot more of the matches have been competitive than they've been in seasons past. So,
I mean, we've kind of gushed about it, but I just want to bring credit to the driving again of both of these two. Like, just like lesser. I mean, everyone's a good driver at BattleBots. I've had plenty of years of experience. There's no reason why anyone could pick up the controls of someone and just drive a great fight. There's no there's no bad drivers. Let's put that out there now. Dave and Daniel are exceptional. They are, Minotaur has been driven this style of robot has been driven by Daniel for, I think you said 2007 was when he was fighting people in Robo games. So 16 plus years. Dave has been, has won King of Bots, won Robot Wars. He's
made the final 3 straight seasons.
I know.
It's not even just winning it.
It's
just the consistency.
And live scene before that as well. Like, he's been doing it for some time.
And this is just a masterpiece. And I'm not someone who like. As I know we said earlier that the BattleBots have kind of moved away from just having one kinetic energy weapon or two. And, I kind of favor those that kind of bring different weapon types and styles, in fights in general. I would more than happily watch this another 10 times. They could go in the arena next week and I'd happily watch it again.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
And really like Dave said at the end, it's the best loss he's ever had. At the end of the fight, you can see Sam and Dave look at each other like,
these guys.
I mean, what else could I do? What else do I do?
It's
you see like Daniel get rolled over, and before the robot is even all the way upside down, he's self-righting back onto its back upside right again. I mean, it's like he is processing that event so quickly. My bot got rolled over, roll back over, and he, that's not like there's a button that he presses and the bot rolls over. That's a combination of multiple joystick maneuvers that he's got to do to get that bot weapon up to speed, pull the bot down and left, generate that gyro force, and it rolls it over. And you have to be so familiar with your robot and be such a talented driver and process that information so quickly. Bot rolling over, do this, I'll get back on my wheels, and shoot, he's back over. And that's like, honestly, if he was upside down for another half a second, Cobalt, that might be a different fight, because Cobalt could have taken advantage of that. But he was so quick on that self right. I watched it and I was like, oh my gosh.
It is just incredible, like the pair of them.
I can't even watch television that fast, so.
Dear me. I don't know if there's anything else to add. Really, I can't remember if there was anything else that I've missed.
It's just good, isn't it?
It's just you can't even pick parts apart. You have a really good team usage of the pulverizer toward the end of the fight. I mean, we could pick it to pieces, and maybe it will be.
I mean, it's on YouTube. You know, there's no reason to not go watch it. So go watch it right now, because it's just like and just appreciate two machines at the very top of their game, because you know this is what it is basically.
Just watching gladiators just go to town on each other, and it was just beautiful. It was art. That's it.
Cobalt needs 2 more forks for the next one.
There you go.
I think they'll have it.
There's a solution. No, just
go with the piano keys. No. I don't know. Maybe it gives them more places to bite. You know, the longer forks. Yeah.
Maybe. Well, it puts Cobalt at 1-1, and we've already discussed the next opponent is going to be Overhaul, which you'd probably favour Cobalt for, and it's going to be a rough ride for Overhaul. But
Charles going to have
now
trouble
to
with
get
that
back in its winning favour as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about Minotaur? Now 3-0.
Oh boy!
And their fourth fight is
their fourth fight is a fight.
Yeah,
it is. It's a spicy one.
It's one of the rematches of all time, I believe.
Yeah. Hello, Witch Doctor.
To be fair, at least these two are 1-1, so they need a decider, right? Whereas the other,
absolutely,
the other controversial one from last year, they didn't really need to do that one again. But this one, I can kind of see why. Witch Doctor's not going to be an easy task. We know that. Witch Doctor are also doing really well. They've won 2 fights. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be easy. But the 4 Minotaurs in like Daniel just seems like a guy on a mission as well. Like he just seems like he's
fired up. Like he's normally fired up, but he's even more fired up this year.
He's got a point to prove.
He is dialed in. He's at another level this year for sure.
We'll see.
I mean, this is about even. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Minotaur Witch Doctor fight was one of the ones that I got to see in the pits, and it's so good. Yeah, such a good fight. Yes, it's another great. I mean, Minotaur fights are always really good, but that is a really great fight for both Minotaur and Witch Doctor, and it just really highlights the skills and strength of both of those machines, and it's an awesome fight. So. No more spoilers than that.
No, yeah, for sure. It's a good fight. Big surprise. Minotaur. It seems like anytime Minotaur or Witch Doctor fight, I mean, barring Witch Doctor's maybe mediocre changes, like when they went in 2018 and the wedge stuff and things they weren't getting the bite that they needed.
The fight that those two had last season.
It's been well dialed in for years now.
The fight that those two had last season until the
thing happened
was exceptional. Yeah. So there's no reason why it can't be again.
Yeah, easily.
So, we haven't discussed your upcoming fight yet, Matt, but we'll talk about both of them. Copperhead and Mammoth.
Yes.
What were your initial thoughts going into... Well, obviously, you're currently at 0-2.
Yeah.
Knowing that I think, is it Copperhead next and then Mammoth, or have I got that the wrong way?
It's Copperhead. It's our number 3 and then Mammoth, yep.
So
when the schedule first came out at the beginning of the year, it was like, all right, we're gonna fight Beta. That's gonna be a really tough fight for us, but a winnable fight. Like we could win that one. And then it was like, all right, we got lucky again. That's another really tough robot, but we could win that one. Okay, then we fight Copperhead. Okay, and then we fight Mammoth, and that's the fight that we could win.
So you had already not written off the Copperhead fight, but you kind of thought, okay, that's probably not one we're gonna.
That's probably not. We knew going in. Copperhead is going to be a tough fight for us. We are gonna. There's opportunities for us to land some hits to Copperhead for sure. They got those big exposed tires. They got those exposed chain. But like Copperhead's side armor is 1 inch thick. Copperhead's top and bottom armor is a 1/2 inch thick, and those chain block guards they've got are 1 inch thick, and it's all AR 500, right? So it's like. It is so small and so dense, and the armor is so thick, and the drum spins so fast. It was like there's not a lot of places for us to really attack on this one. It's really one that we're gonna have to go back to OG style and control this bot if we want to have a shot to win this one. And it was like when we started having drive problems against Beta and Lucky, it was like, we are going to get massacred by Copperhead if we can't get this robot to move around the arena reliably. It's like, you might as well just throw in the towel now, because this robot will literally go in one side and come out the other side if we're not driving well. So we knew this one, out of all 4 of our fights, this was absolutely going to be the toughest and potentially most destructive fight we were going to face.
As for Mammoth, I mean, you know, it's an ungainly beast to prepare for, but like there's opportunities there for you, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And Mammoth was one we were excited about, because like this is one that we felt like we could really bring the saw cutting action of Kraken in. This was where we could run the disc up all the way, like straight up, and just spin it down and try and hack through some tubes, you know. And so we were excited about trying this one to really bring the weapon to bear, and really have a weapon that we could, you know, kind of showcase the bot at full potential. Like, this is us being destructive now. So we were excited about that one. Plus, you know, Ricky beat us with Mammoth before he was on, before he made it to BattleBots. He brought me to Orlando.
The Ruckus fight.
Yes, he beat us there in the OG Kraken, the very first one. He flipped us upside down, and they went in and got a picture of us before they let us in the arena, of like Mammoth towering over this upside down Kraken, and I was like, okay, all right, it's gonna be like that. All right,
Matt Spurk will remember this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some people don't keep grudges. I'm not one of those people.
I wonder if they put it in their application for the following
year.
Oh
yeah. I am 100% certain that video made it in their application.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like that, and the one when Foxtrot just gets stuck inside it, and that's the
yes. I forgot about that. That was so awesome.
And they replicated it, didn't they?
They did.
Yes,
it's a lot of really good moments from that event.
Yes,
a lot of really good moments.
Yes.
Deary me. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode, and indeed, almost to the end of the podcast. We have 3 more questions to ask, all from...
They should be quick.
They should be... Well, I hope so.
We'll see.
In theory.
So they all come from Luke Stangle, one of the presenters of Behind the Bots, who very kindly left us some questions as well. So, first one is, what's Disney World like after the park closes?
Yeah, so if you don't know, I used to work for Disney World. I was a roller coaster tester there, and so I did that for 4 years. And we all the roller coaster testing obviously occurs when none of the guests are there, so we would go in after dark, and it's cool and creepy kind of at the same time. So there's some parts where there's like no one there, so it's Magic Kingdom, right? But it's a ghost town, so it's kind of like, what happened to all the people? Like, why did they all get abducted?
Where was this bustling town I was hearing about?
Yes, there were 70,000 people here earlier today. Now there's just me. Where did everyone go? You know. And then there's other parts where, like, if they've got like a big construction event going on, they're rehabbing a ride or something like that, there'll be just trucks and cars and lights everywhere, and there's people, and you know, there's so it's weird having like the people are replaced with like construction equipment, you know. And like Disney After Dark is like a second, like, coming alive, right? It has a second energy after dark, because there's so much stuff they've got to, you know, maintain all the rides and repaint everything, and there's so much stuff to make it all look brand new for the next day, for the next set of guests. So there's a ton of work that goes into the parks, and it's just depending on where you're at and what's going on, it's
either a massive construction site or an apocalypse. You know, there's no in between.
That's right, there's no in between. It's one or the other. Yeah, and sometimes it's like there's like a wall. You walk the one side of the wall, it's construction, and the other side of the wall, it's a ghost town. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy. Steve, do you want to take the middle one?
Yeah, I can. So Luke also asked, have you ever seen any of the presidents from the Hall of Presidents stripped down to the robotic skeletons?
I don't think I've seen any of the presidents, but I have seen a lot of like the It's a Small World dolls that they make those all the time. That's super creepy. Like there's like a whole wall of doll heads, you know. And these ones actually, like, the eyes move and the, you know, arms move, like that.
Bad touch.
Yeah, that's really creepy.
That's stuff that keeps you awake at night.
Yeah. right? And I've seen the animals like the elephant tusks and stuff that they move. I've seen a lot of deer and elephants and stuff from various rides, and I actually got to see. My dad actually helped work on the C3PO that they have for Star Tours, so I got to
no
see
way.
C3PO, the inside, all that. So
That's
that
awesome.
was really cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. And David, you get the last question.
I'll take the last one. Yep. So, what was it like seeing your first rocket launch?
Oh, the first. So rocket launch is like you can't convey a rocket launch in a video. The video, the light and the sound of a rocket just cannot be conveyed unless you're there in person. It will shake you to the core. It's like being at the front row of a rock concert and just that heavy bass thumping through your entire body. It shakes the ground. We live 10 miles or 15 miles, something like that, from the launch pad, and it rattles the windows in our house. There, it is so loud. So the very first rocket launch was just crazy. It was like, yep, I want to do this
I'll say for
a long time.
For those that don't know, obviously you work at NASA now. You've been, I can't. It's Artemis, isn't it?
I'm part of the Artemis program. Yep. So
like, how is that? I mean, that's just so cool.
It's
like, just
very cool, isn't it?
Like seeing stuff that you like help go to space.
It was so cool. It's been such a long time because I've been part of the program now for 7 years. Obviously the whole team's worked very hard for this day, and to see it finally work, and so to get through like all the troubles we had this summer trying to get it to launch. I was part of the integration team, so my role was kind of like the integration between the rocket and the launch pad, and what's going on and why is it not working and how do we get it to work and what can we do, what can we fix, what can we change. And like we've tested stuff for years to make sure that everything worked when it got there, and stuff wasn't working the way we'd wanted to, and it was kind of like, oh god, what do we do? So it was very stressful, but it was so cool to be a part of it, right? Like it was just fun. It's just fun.
It's every 10-year-old's dream, right? Like it's either going to space or making stuff to go to space. Like there's no in between. It's just I'm in awe.
It was so cool, and like I was right there. I was listening in, so I was in the chief engineer support room. So if there's any problems that happen during launch, they call into the chief engineer support room, and we try and help them look through drawings and provide technical information and stuff. So there's a whole team of us that are doing that. And we're kind of like on call. If there's something goes wrong, we're on call that you can call us and we can help dig in stuff and look stuff up and provide info and stuff. We got down to like 3 minutes left in the count, and it's like, well, it's all automated right now. We can't help anyway. So it's like, run outside and let's watch this launch, because we're in a room, we can't see the launch. So it's like we all take off running, and we're running and we're going to the elevator, and it's like, the elevator's too slow, take the stairs. And it's, 5 stories down, and we're all running out of the parking lot.
Sweating outside like, tell me you love your job without telling me you love your job, right?
Yes. And we all got out there, got to watch it. It was
amazing.
Super cool. It lit up the whole night. I mean, it's like the sun coming up, lighting up. So it was so cool. And to be a part of it, and just to have a really successful mission, made all the struggles of getting through the summer worth it. And now we're working on fixing the damage from the launch and getting ready for crew for the next one. So we got a lot of work we got to do, and really excited about the Artemis program and our next launch.
That's so awesome.
It's all very exciting. It's always exciting to go to space, honestly.
Absolutely.
And anything up there.
So I got to figure out how to get stowaway in the cabin next time.
Right.
Next launch.
That's right. You just need to get one of the Krakens, on the
little wooden models, of course.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Or just paint, cover the whole like sort of rocket in like the green.
Just like stick it under a seat; it'll float out as they get you 0G.
What's this, Matt? Not again.
It turns out this was the solution to the ground game the whole time. Zero
G. Oh dear. Matt, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you back, and I promise it won't be 2 years next time.
Yeah.
Although
we try to find everybody, you know, we try to like make sure that we don't have the same people on all the time, you know. We do the best we can.
To be fair, if we had spoken to you last season, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as fun as this, because it seemed like last year was a real struggle, but the future seems very bright with Kraken now.
Oh man, I'm super excited about it. I work on it all the time, and just I'm really excited to get out in the garage and get working on it again, which was a big change from last year. So
that's good.
It's really cool. Yeah, I'm really happy with where we're at and where we're going and what we've got on the horizon.
Awesome.
That's lovely to hear.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, and thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Thank you very much, man. With all that said, I've been Sam Elliott 64.
I've been Steve the American Killjoy.
I've been DavidofSmeg.
I'm Matt Spurk from Team Kraken.
And myself and Steve, maybe David, we'll see you next week.
We'll see.
Maybe someone new entirely.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? It may just be Steve next week, because who knows at this point?
Yeah.
We'll see you next week for more BattleBots action. We'll see you then.